G'day. I was doing some reloading during the week and I've got a shoot coming up and I was reloading a whole heap of different things, and one of the things I was reloading was 223 Remington. Now I had someone helping me who had never, well, she had actually done some reloading before, but I just sort of showed her how to lube the cases and left her to it while I went and did something else. And unfortunately, after a short time, there was a case stuck in the die, in the full-length resizing die. Pulled the rim off the case, and it was jammed fast. Now, I've never had this happen before. I didn't know about the potential for the problem. I am aware that RCBS makes a little tool set for removing stuck cases from dies. And I was sort of, even though I haven't actually ever seen one used or watched a video or anything, I was kind of familiar with the concept. So, so what the RCBS case stuck case removal kit consists of is, all it is a tap. Being American, it's probably impure, it's probably 1/4 inch UNC, I would imagine, maybe. So if anyone can correct me if you know for sure what they have. And the clearance drill, the correct drill to be able to tap that. And then there's just a little round collar type thing that puts pressure on the side of the die. And then there's just simply a bolt that you screw in, and I think they have a bolt with an Allen key that comes with it as well. So you've basically got everything you need in the little kit except for possibly a tap holder, although at a pinch, if you didn't have that, you could probably use something else, a spanner or a little vice grips or something like that, just to hold the tap and screw it in. But I sort of thought, well, I've got all of those things. Just to show you a quick photo of what that kit looks like, what you get. In the RCBS set, there's probably a 1/4 inch UNC, I would say. That's close to 6 mil, which is what I use. That's probably a pretty general good size to use. It's going to be easy to find if you're in the US. If you're in a metric country, then maybe 6 mil metric. With a really big case, with a big head, you might want to go bigger. You could probably even go 8 mil. The idea is probably use a common size, so either you're going to have a bolt at home somewhere, you know, if you've got a collection like I have, or at least you can go to the local hardware store and get a bolt of the correct size to go with that thread. I looked online, and the RCBS extraction kits are $53 Australian. Now I know you can probably get them a lot less than that in the US, but and then you'd be paying about $15 freight, I reckon. So you're looking at 53, 63, so you know, $65 to $70 to get one of those kits. Whereas most people have either got a suitable tap and drill bit at home, or at the very least, if you just go down the hardware store or local engineering supplies and get them quickly. If you get a stuck case, because with me it was like I needed to fix it quickly so I could keep on reloading. Now, when you buy your tap, if you need to go and buy a tap, what you need to do is ask for a taper tap. If you go into an engineering store and ask for say a 6 mil metric tap, they're going to say, oh, do you want, you know, taper, intermediate or bottom? What you want is a taper tap, because you're drilling through the back of the case into the space inside the case. It's not a blind hole. If you've got a taper tap, this is a bigger one. This is bigger than the one you can use. But if you look at that, see how it's got a taper on the end, so that will actually go into the drill hole, and then as you screw it, it will start to bite your thread. So that's the easiest type to actually get your thread going. You're going to need something to hold the end of the tap. I've got tap holders, but if you had to go and buy the tap and it's just for this one job and you're not going to use it again, you could probably just use a spanner. You know, put it in find maybe even a ring spanner that will go at the end, or an open end, and just try to keep it straight as as you push down, because you're only tapping into brass, it's not very difficult.
There's a case stuck in this die. Now there's a 223 case stuck in a Lee die, full length resizing die. So what happens is it actually pulls the rim off the case, and the case is stuck hard in the die. So what I've already done is I got the die, undid the little collar that holds the decapping rod in place. Now the rod was completely tight in the case. What I then did was just grab the rod in the vise like that and put a claw hammer under it, and I was able to actually pull the die off the end of the rod. The end of the rod got a little bit damaged. I'll have to just smooth that up. Just in the lathe with a file before I put the die back together. Anyway, these dies, as you can see, have this flat bit there, which is about 3/4 of an inch, I think, from memory. If you want to use it, you can just, if you haven't got a vise, you can just use a spanner to do this, but the vise just makes it a bit easier. So I've got that there so it won't turn. And what I'm going to do, I've drilled that out to 5 mils. So what I'm going to do is, which is the correct tapping clearance size for a 6 mil course M6 M6 tap, which is what I've got here. So we'll just put that in there, and we'll put a little bit of lube in there, and then we'll just tap this. So I'm using just a intermediate tap here, which is one that I just happen to have. Brass should be reasonably easy to tap, I would imagine. Just keeping that straight is always the secret. That's why the vise is good. It's nice to be able to stick it in the vise and have the die nice and still, so you can get everything lined up. So that's starting to bite now. So anytime you're tapping, just go a little way and then go back again to clear the chips, especially with steel, harder steels. Put a little bit more lube in there, it's getting a bit tight there. It's getting quite tight there. I might just unscrew that. Just getting annoyed by a mosquito here. It's actually sort of a rainy, wet day. We've actually gone through there, but I just want to go all the way through into the cave. Alright, so now we've got a nice 6 mil thread right down into the case there. So what we basically need now is we need some sort of collar arrangement that's going to put pressure on the die but not on the case, and then we need a flat thing with a 6 mil bolt going through, so as we screw the bolt down it pulls on the case, puts pressure down here and pulls the case out. So that's the theory. So let's see how we go. Now, because you need to put a fair bit of torque on it, possibly, a hex head is probably best, rather than one to use an Allen key or a screwdriver or anything else. So that's a 6 mil stainless bolt. So that should be long enough to clear. So now I just have to find some sort of setup to put pressure on there. So I'll just search through all my, I just had a thought I might be able to use a socket, so I'll have a look at that. Alright, I think I've got this sorted out now. So that's just my 10 mil socket out of my 1/4 inch socket set, is a perfect fit, and then I've got a little 6mm washer to go over the top of that. We'll put that screw in there and do it up. Now we'll see how tight this is going to be. Obviously, if it's really tight, there's the potential that it will it'll strip the thread out of the case. Then you have to drill it out bigger and try again. So I want to avoid that. So here we go. So I've got a 10mm ring spanner. Do that slowly. Hopefully this will pull the case out. Seems to be, like, if it was really super tight, the next thing I would be doing would be probably putting a bit of heat on here to expand this. Whenever you're pulling anything, you just do it by feel, and if it seems like something's going to give that's not what you want to give, often a little heat will do the job. But something's happening here. There we go. Worked perfectly. So there we go. So let's have a look at this. So you can see there, hopefully that's going to focus. You see the threaded hole. So we get a light on there. Hopefully you can see that. We've got the threaded hole on the inside of the case. You can see where the rim's been pulled off the case by the shell holder, you know. So yeah, so at least I got my 223 dies back in action again. In that case, obviously, just gets binned. So lucky it's a nice common type of case. So what we'll do now is just put this die back together. All right, so there's the decapper expander rod. Now, the way that a bottleneck die works is, if you feel this, there's actually like an increased diameter bit here. So the idea is that as it goes into the case, which has been expanded from firing, it freely goes into there, and then once it goes past the neck, the case is pushed into the die and the neck is squashed up here, and then when you then pull the case out of the die, it actually expands the neck again, and that should be exactly 223, or maybe a little bit smaller, whatever they decide is the actual correct size. And I think that this was actually what had jammed the case in the die. This seemed to be tight. There's a lot of old dried lube on there, and I wonder whether that may be an issue. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just go and clean it with some degreaser to get all the lube off so it's nice and clean before I put it back together. Alright, so I've cleaned that rod so it's nice and clean now. Anyway, one thing I'm going to have to do now is, because this collet is actually quite tight on this, I've burred this in the vice jaws. So I'm just going to go and I might just put it, the easiest way is probably just to put it in the lathe and just get a file, and I'll just file it smooth. So I'll just go and do that. All right, so I just put that in the lathe and just used a fine mill file just to take all the little burry bits off. So that's okay now. So basically we'll put that. Actually, what I might even do with this die before I even do that is I'm going to go and just going to go to the sink, spray some degreaser down it, and put a bore brush through it. Maybe just get some of all the old grease and stuff out of it while I've got it apart. Right, so that should be clean. I'll see if I can get just a bit of paper towel just to get the moisture out of it. Alright, so let's put that there. Now we've got to get the pin decapping rod so that it's generally with these it'll be about level with the end of the collet, screw on collet thing. So just putting that on there like that. I might let's have a look at that. That kind of looks pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll get the get that. Might actually get the correct imperial spanner for that. There you go, 1/2 inch. So 3/4 for the die, 1/2 inch for the collet. Now the idea with these, you don't need to do them that tight. The idea is that if you get a primer that's, you know, stuck, or a Burdan prime case or something like that, which is likely to break the decapping pin, if you don't have it too tight, this is supposed to actually slide up through the collet before the pin breaks. But I think you have to be pretty lucky to have it just at the right tension in the neck here. But I'll just leave it at that, see how that goes. So anyway, there we go, our die's back in action again. So that's how to get a stuck case out of a die without buying a RCBS type kit. Anyway, if you like this sort of thing, subscribe to my channel, press like, and until next time, thanks for watching.